welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, there's going to be a link going by in the live stream chat. If you do join the discussion, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Flat Earth 24/7 Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
What up?
Good morning. As I said in the introduction, if you did want to join the show, there is going to be a link going by in the live stream chat. So usually I just indicate that there's a regular link to Flat Earth Debate Discord server, whereas in this instance we are in Flat Earth 24/7 Discord server, which is not as, if you want to call it that, because it's definitely not my server that I use daily. It's run by other people. But there we go. It's under the same title as the show, and our regular home from home, but not this particular day. So today we're in a different server. So if you are a member of Flat Earth 24/7, then you can join us in live stream 2 as opposed to live stream 1, which is obviously much better. But there we go. We'll make do with live stream 2 for today. How you feeling, Mush?
So Nathan, I'm ready to leave.
You're ready,
ready to leave a link.
You're all
Yeah, I like the
excited.
comment over there, so let me know.
And Mush was all excited because we're in a different place and he wanted to gather up as many people as possible to be in there for when the live stream show started, which is sweet.
That's right.
Anywho, so there we go.
So-
Hello to everyone in my live stream chat. Good to have you. Bible, you, Riffraff. Good to see you both. Vlad, I'll make you a moderator so you can post this link. Right, what do I want to make you? Standard moderator.
I just posted a link, but I'm not sure if
You're a mod now.
if it's gonna be shown.
Yeah, you're a mod now, so you
Okay.
should be able to post that link.
There we go.
See if it swings its way by in the live stream chat. You can hopefully see it floating its way
Yep.
by. There we go. Excellent stuff. So you can join the 24/7 Discord server if you do want to join. Now, we made a unanimous decision yesterday. So unanimous. There was lots of discussion about it. But we will continue doing a housekeeping. So we're going to ask a couple of questions, as we were doing, not the full shebango of housekeeping every day, but a couple of housekeeping questions. So we'll start with any elevation angle measurement acquirable from a curved baseline.
No one uses a curved line meeting a straight line to get an angle. That's not what an angle is.
The Earth is navigated, charted, measured, flat.
It must be.
On Friday last week, we covered Cox talking to Joe Rogan about how the solar system in the heliocentric model is asymptotically flat, which is something that John has covered on a couple of shows prior. But it was just interesting to hear Brian Cox actually going over it. And we know why. It can only function that way because the entire system is based on flat Earth measurements of angles to the stars. That's how the whole system's derived. Regardless of them taking flat, circular, radial values and making them spherical, the system itself still has to be functionally flat. And it is. For them and us. They need a flat Earth more than we do. Any evidence of the R value,
yeah.
Earth radius?
The only two ways I know to calculate it require the Earth to be a flat plane.
The two ways being Alberuni and Polaris, right?
Yes.
I like both of them. Alberuni because it shows the hardline principle that the assertion in Earth curve mathematics utilizes. That's a differential between eye level and surface level. So the way that the radial value is derived in the first place is as they mean to go on with the Earth curve mathematics that gives you a geometric horizon below the surface level. The same below surface level curved Earth that Al-Biruni infers after he goes up a mountain that is measured off a flat plane. So you've got the same principles employed in both. But in more practical terms, you can navigate the Earth using the elevation angle measurement to Polaris to give you a equatorial radial value, minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris, which is what we're on currently. That's our tip, right? So from that perspective, I like that one more because it's a practical application to navigate around the known surface of Earth, flat. And also where they get their radial value.
That's the one where they say when you're navigating the ground, you're not using, you're not on the ground.
Yeah, that's the current
I
rebuttal.
can't remember.
We should focus on that more, really, because the Black Swan 2020, their rebuttal was Bogart refraction, leaving confusion in the mind's eye of anybody who's an observer to that subject matter discussion. In this instance, it's a far more cut and dry example for people to understand in the first instance with an angle measurement to Polaris. Minimum elevation angle when it reaches zero, the horizon inferred, obviously you can't see it when it's at zero, is the outside edge of their then to be inferred sphere. But the measurement itself is off a flat plane. So people can understand that. What's the rebuttal? Well, the ground's not the ground. Well, yeah, it is, especially if you're dealing with latitude, a point that Brian's driven home recently. Exceptional point it is, because when you're dealing with navigation and circles of equal elevation in the case of latitude, that's minimum elevation angle at radial value for sphere, and zenith if you're directly below Polaris in that system, with ever increasing circles of equal elevation moving out from the center. That's Polaris. Like I say, it's zenith being if you were on your back lying on the ground flat, it would be directly above you. If you look straight up, lying flat on the ground, that's zenith. Well, as you move away from it, each of those circles of equal elevation that form the latitude grid are on the ground. For us and them. It's just the only way to acquire them and describe them cannot include refracted non-geometric horizons if you're going to describe it as a mapping system that's very specifically describing the ground. So they're buggered when it comes to latitude. Brian knows it, I know it. There is no wrangle-dangle with dip corrections or anything else when you're talking about a system that is very specifically detailing the ground, and the ground with areas of equal elevation measurable along a flat plane to Polaris. In all instances, that's a flat Earth proof through and through, and where they utilize the globe with a flat Earth measurement to start it.
Nathan, that's a lot of flat Earth you're talking about there.
Huge amount, yeah, it is. You're not wrong. But why wouldn't it be? That's how Earth is. It makes sense that all roads lead to a flat Earth because that is how Earth is. It wouldn't be right if it wasn't the case and we were flat Earthers. There'd be something very amiss if some of the measurements actually did take place with a spherical surface in mind and they were measured that way. I wouldn't be a flat Earther. The fact that we found our way to the fact that Earth is actually measured flat and dealt with flat and negotiated flat and charted flat, and that makes perfect sense. It is flat. Earth is a flat plane. So why wouldn't it be measured that way?
Yeah, that's my point when I say if the evidence that we have, say it was vice versa, I wouldn't be a flat earther anymore. So I don't understand what's keeping people on this spinning water ball.
The debate, once you find out it's the case, you negotiate your way through a concern with am I wrong? And in that process, you end up finding your way to the debate, which can leave ambiguity in your mind and therefore possibility that it is still a sphere. That's all you need. As long as the brainwashing comes thick and fast to the rest of the Western world. To do a QE plug tomorrow at, I believe it's 1 a.m. UK. Why is it so late, QE? QE's going to do a treatment on, I've forgotten the guy's name. What's the guy's name? Peterson, Planet Peterson. So be here or be sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel, and you'll get a QE live treatment. I would suggest you watch it on Friday if you're in the UK, unless you're a late person and you like staying up till horrendous time in the morning? 11 in Australia. There you go. 11 a.m. in Australia. That's not a bad time. Hopefully get some Aussie viewers. I fired a hello to Mitchell from Australia, actually, because I hadn't spoken to him in ages. Like, everything all right with the kids and you and the family? And I was like, yeah, back at you. It's just like, I don't know what to say to Mitch. I haven't spoken to him for ages, but I just want to touch base with him.
How is he?
I don't know. Other than the pleasantries of how are you and the family, to which he replied good, and I replied the same. That was it. It was just a quick Skype back and forth, because I thought, I haven't spoken to him in ages.
Well, it's like with Flatsoid. I haven't spoken to him in a long time either. When I hear somebody talk to him, I kind of wonder about him, you know.
He's doing. It's going to sound so arrogant. He's where I was when I first started doing the debate. Right? He's not on the cutting edge just yet, but he's pretty close. But he's going to be making mistakes, and then he's going to get corrected on those mistakes. He's thrown himself in at the deep end. That's how I describe Flatsoid at the moment. And he's not drowning, is he?
Yeah, but Flatsoid knows.
No.
Flatsoid knows what?
Flatsoid knows the score. Not talking about you 10 years ago. This is well along now. Flatsoid knows the score. Why is he entertaining these things? Why is he not just obliterating the people that he has on? I don't know. But the other day, that little clip you played was very telling.
What clip? I can't remember what clip I played.
The one where he started, instead of just killing the argument, he went into the feast of nonsense with the guy.
Right.
Started talking about the Jesuits.
Yeah, with You Are Mopped. Yeah, I broke down every single bit of what You Are Mopped said in his comment section, and his response, Flatsoid's response, was to say, look, it was a chit-chat. You're like, fair enough. I mean, the guy You Are Mopped specifically, yeah, he's got his fundamental beliefs that he will deny and even question the validity of questioning, but he doesn't seem like a fundamentalist zealot that's going to shout you down in anger when you contradict some of his points. So for me, I would have said it was the ideal opportunity to go through some of those points with him, but Flatsoid perhaps didn't want to ruin his day and just wanted to, make friends with him and whatever. I don't know. That's a bizarre position that he took, but he can do what he likes, right?
Yeah, well, let's say it's to be continued. We'll see how he deals with him again. Maybe Flatsoid's slick and he's bringing him in to drop the hammer. I hope so.
I don't know. I don't. I still watch Flatsoid. I tune in now and again when I've got the time to do so. And yeah, he's got a good show. I haven't got any issues with Flatsoid. The fact that we can go through.
Neither do I.
The fact that we can go through some of the things he does and critique him on it. Number one, he's normally pretty grateful when we do that. No, I think it's beneficial. So
Yes, he is. He welcomes critique.
Exactly. Hopefully we're not harsh when we do it. Anything, I'm more of a snowflake than he is. So yesterday, Mark Sargent was a little bit critical when he said I was abusive to my counterparts. He didn't even specify. But nevertheless, I was a bit put out by that. I still thanked him. I sent him a message thanking him for the shout out, which he didn't have to do. So who's the bigger snowflake?
Well, hold on a second, because every time you bring up Mark Sargent, we never go after him. He has a specific job. He's for the newbies, and we praise him for that. So for him to turn around and give you a plug like that, I thought that was a little bit of a backhand, and I don't like it.
Maybe he doesn't like us saying he's for the newbies. There's nothing to not like about Mark Sargent, though. There's nothing Mark Sargent does wrong. And like what you call a backhanded slight against me, I don't necessarily see it that way. He's preemptively telling an audience member that they might get here, thinking they can step into a nice, easy debate And if they're not pre-warned that it's going to be a hard time, he just chose his words the way he chose them. Fair enough.
Oh, I see what you're saying. If he did that, then fine. He's giving him a little warning. You're heading into the hippo pond, and they seem nice and pleasant, but boy, do they crack watermelons when you stick them in their face,
Exactly.
especially watermelons that look like a globe.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he's just preempted in that. But we're amongst the rubble now, aren't we? So, even in a different server now, it's very quiet because we're walking around the rubble. So who have we got in 24/7? Any new faces, or has everyone from our server just migrated their way here? I don't know what you're worrying about, Mighty Mush. It's not like migrating somewhere else has meant that the conversation has particularly changed from Discord. Yes, Nathan, I completely agree.
Sorry, I was just trying to leave a link again in a YouTube channel.
I see that. Good stuff. Yeah, we are in 24/7 today, so if you did want to join us here, feel free. The link's going by, and it means that hopefully some of the audience will actually join the 24/7 server where they may not have already. And why are the audience numbers so crap? I didn't think going out on the wrong stream yesterday would have such a detrimental effect on my viewing figures. There's only like 40 people watching. Please share the show if you've not done so already. Smash that share button. Nothing wrong with what Mark stated. I don't know, Mike 808. Mike says that he doesn't disagree with Mike. I wouldn't say I was abusive. I do take a bit of umbrage with that description. Where I give as good as I get from fundamentalist religious zealots who rumpus the crap out of anything you have to put to them, I'll treat them as they treat me. Now, if that means that, as John put it yesterday, it means I've sunk to their level, therefore I get described as being abusive, I don't know. I don't know if that sits necessarily well with me, other than the fact that I have to be sat down by several more Christian of the group to say, no, the way you behave is not necessarily as shareable as you might think. So how can I disagree with Mark? So there's two sides to everything. But I'm glad you commented on it, Mike. Nothing wrong with what Mark stated. Yeah, we will go to some of the other servers though. 24/7's obviously not that chatty. Maybe we'll go to Earth Awakenings sometime this week. John suggested that we give a bit more of a heads up before we do so. So I would suggest, given it's only Tuesday, that we go into Earth Awakenings on Friday. How's that sound?
That sounds great, man. Did you do a housekeeping already?
Yeah, we did. I'm just
this
going to do a
morning?
couple of questions. So elevation angle and R value today. I'll do a couple more tomorrow.
Why not keep the housekeeping? I always thought they were perfectly formulated, just perfect questions, man. I
Because
understand Righteous's point, but still.
if you get into them, keeping it limited to a couple typically means that you'll spend about 20 minutes there or thereabouts. Or about 20 minutes of the show will have elapsed by the time you get to the end of the second housekeeping question being answered. In this case, we're about halfway through. 20, 25 minutes, is where you want to be when you're getting to the end of the housekeeping question. If something's happened, and it happens to coincide with me asking a housekeeping question, then that could take up 3/4 of an hour just discussing some specific instance from a YouTuber that's covered a specific question that I happen to have asked on that day. Now, if you try and make your way through all of them each day, that one question that's got a particular lengthy answer to might not get its full credit, might not get the full story conveyed to the audience in the time available because I want to go through all of them and make sure we've covered every housekeeping question. So I don't think that's necessary. If we make sure each housekeeping question is covered throughout the week, then yeah, number one, there's a bit of variety for those who are regular viewers. It's not always the same series of questions in the identical format. Just maybe the order might change each day. It's like each housekeeping question will get asked throughout the week. But if you tune in on Monday, you're not going to just tune in on Tuesday and get the exact same rendition of the same housekeeping questions. There'll be a different question and therefore potentially a different discussion point that gets opened up in each day's housekeeping session. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Fair enough. I'm just saying, if you run out of things to talk about, you can always go back to a housekeeping question.
I mean, if you want to do housekeeping questions now, I don't mind going through all of them now. If you want to do that, is that what you're suggesting? Because I don't mind doing that.
Sure. Yeah, man.
Or we'll just do
I
the rest
always
of them.
thought they were perfectly formulated questions.
Well, how
I
about
love
this?
it.
I'll go through the rest of the housekeeping questions, and then we'll cover a video if someone wants to dig one out. If someone's got something we want to respond to, hopefully by the time we've covered the rest of the housekeeping questions, there's something else to respond to. If not, I'm going to talk about Brian's video, which was epic. So we'll do the housekeeping, see if the video turns up in Master B. If not, I'm going to talk about Brian, and then maybe he'll make an appearance. We'll see. He made a really good video. In fact, I'm going to plug that
Perfect.
first before we do housekeeping. So Brian,
Okay, if you're hinting about videos, Nathan, like I don't have, like I'm in Vermont, I'm working, and I won't have any videos ready for you until next week.
no, that's fine.
If you're just hinting anything, all right.
No, that's fine. If anybody wants to cover something, they can stick it in Master B, and then we'll cover it. But yeah, in the meantime, I want to promote this video. So Brian is covering the 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles / 69 statute miles in this video. And I want you to give Brian a bit of encouragement because he does all this research, puts it all together and sticks it out in a video. And he needs more praise for what he does. You know, I steal all of his information in this regard. And so should you. If you're an audience member, you need to pay attention to what Brian's doing. Because he's got the goods. You know, he knows what he's talking about. And what I like more than anything about Brian is I'll often come to my comment section and he'll save me about 10 minutes because he'll have done what I see as work. So it's like the first job of the day, going through the comments and responding when someone says something to the effect of, have you ever explained how you can use a sextant on a flat earth? And I'll be like, a sextant only works on a flat earth. What are you talking about? But I'll get there and Brian will have done the similar thing already before I've got there. Like, he's presumably been up at 2 a.m. and, oh, I just wonder what they said on that most recent flat earth debate in the comment section. Oh, you idiot. You can only use a sextant on a flat earth. It measures angles, you fool. And I'll get that from Brian to a commenter. But my point being that he's absolutely on the cutting edge. Why wouldn't he be as part of the show? But he's got his own channel and he puts out these videos and they're great. So go and check him out. Go and subscribe today. Don't need to let him know out Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I'm sure he's well aware that we're talking about his video now. But if nothing else, I might just, how long was it? 20 minutes. If we've got time after housekeeping and nothing else comes up, I'm tempted to just play Brian's video. Because I think
I agree.
Because it is good. Okay, right, let's cue it up to the beginning. He starts talking about 35 seconds in. There we go. Talking as in subject matter talking. Okay, any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Are you saying if there was available space, would gas not fill that available space? Is that what you're saying?
That is in essence the question, yes.
No.
Okay then. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
The horizon is not Earth curve. It's impossible to have a horizon on a spherical object. Slope-a-dope. Earth is flat. That's why you have a horizon.
That's correct.
Also,
both disappear in relation to the plane, and they disappear bottom up. We know up and down is in relation to a plane.
Any
yeah,
scientific...
you can't assert.
Oh, go on. I left it. I thought we would continue. Please share the show if you're watching. Edging our way up to 50 viewers. Wow, amazing. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Yeah, you can't. You can't curve surface level and assert a geometric horizon.
It's below surface level. Geometric horizon only exists in the maths. End quote, the rumpus. The horizon that you do not see. That's Earth curve, right?
Perhaps you should explain angular resolution, Nathan, because nobody seems to understand it.
Why?
I know when I first heard it, I was like, angular resolution, what the fuck's that? I don't know. But then as soon as the word resolve came into my head, I was like, oh, that's where I can resolve a thing. It becomes simple all of a sudden, doesn't it?
Yes and no. I'm not decrying question, but by the same token, number one, kudos. To understand this is, number one, complicated. Number two, not discussed generally in public spaces because everyone's a globe believer. But number three, and in my humble opinion, moving into 2024, more importantly, not necessary. Let me explain why. When our opponents on the globe side make a positive assertion that there is a physical geometric sphere edge that we identify as, quote, the horizon, and it fails, shout out to TB in the chat. Black Swan debunked Earth curve. Yep, absolutely correct. So, with that in mind, what necessity do we have to explain what forms the horizon as a flat earther? Now, I'm not saying that it might not be of interest to you. It obviously is, Andy. But not in debate. It only introduces a false dichotomy where they say the horizon is Earth curve and we say it's an optical resolution limit diffraction, and then rail off the Rayleigh criterion to explain and justify our position. Position for what? What's our positive claim? That the horizon isn't Earth curve? How does that affirm our positive flat Earth position? It doesn't. It just puts you in false dichotomy. But because you know how perspective works, you're going to argue the toss for proving that it isn't Earth curve? That's their positive claim.
This is exactly what I was saying the other day on Geos. It's nothing to do with flat Earth. It's just how your eyes work.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. It is interesting, but only interesting because you, in this particular arena, and I'm not saying for you personally, but formerly had an idea that it represented the curve of the Earth, the horizon, that is. So when you appreciate that isn't the case, you might then, subsequently, as a folly, go, well, I wonder what does cause the horizon. And then you get into perspective and angular resolution limits and the Rayleigh criterion and how your eyeballs work and how lenses work and how moving closer to the deck will limit that angle. It's all the same subject. But for what end does it prove Earth's flat? No. Can you use it to infer Earth's flat? Yeah. But they used it to infer there was a sphere edge horizon. That failed. Now there's no need for you to understand it. You might want to, but there's no need as a flat earther to explain it. And if you do, you're in a false dichotomy argument where it leaves the open possibility that, while your argument for perspective might be wrong, my argument for it being a sphere edge to Earth is still a possibility because we've argued the false dichotomy for 2 hours without a victor. I would prefer, just to make this a bit more useful to you specifically, Andy, is say, take their example because it utilizes the horizon and put it into a practical flat Earth example where you're measuring utilizing the horizon, be it with a sextant, as we've discussed that on this show, and then show your opponent how that does prove a flat Earth, how you have a prerequisite of Earth being flat for that tool to function at all. You can't even look at a sextant if you're a globe believer because it has no practical application anymore. However, as a Earth that's flat and an angle to a position below a star, you can save your life. You can plot out your position because we've mapped and charted the world flat with those same elevation angles off a flat Earth, utilizing the horizon with this tool known as a sextant. So you're not necessarily juxtaposing their argument with your argument for perspective, aka false dichotomy. You're taking it to a different claim. The horizon is used to measure Earth flat because it is, and that's far more practical. What use is the horizon being Earth curve? Does the boat going over it, according to your vision, use anything in practical terms to help you in life? No. All it does is affirm a sphere believer's bias that they've got an Earth curve edge horizon. That's all it does. It doesn't have any practical use. What about using the horizon to establish a flat plane to measure an angle to a star? Has that got any practical use? Yeah, saves lives. Measuring a flat Earth. So for me, it's contrast with something that does prove a flat Earth rather than figure out why the horizon forms, which is their claim of Earth curve. Your claim of perspective, it's not a claim.
Well, they're probably just going to say a tangent. They're going to use a tangent line, an imaginary line. No?
Well, that's my point. You're back into false dichotomy. They're describing a non-perspective world with tangent points in orthographic view. You're describing a perspective-based reality where the optical dissolution point forms the horizon. Why? So that they can have their argument about tangent points in orthographic view. You're back into false dichotomy, and that argument can continue for 2 hours. And from an audience perspective, they go, I am left with the possibility of the one side's claim that it's earth curved and geometric and blocking boats and buildings as potentially true. Therefore, I can go about my life on a ball. If you say that fails, black swan, without regurgitating the argument how that functions, black swan, meanwhile, the horizon's used to measure Earth flat, you're not taking it away from their position that the horizon is Earth curved, positive claim that fails. No, the horizon's used to measure Earth flat and navigate and save your life at sea if you're lost. What does your horizon that failed to be Earth curved get used for? Oh, it doesn't? Yeah, that's because it isn't. Meanwhile, it does get used to save lives at sea and establish a horizontal plane of reference. That's how Earth is charted and mapped. Flat. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? No? No claims of
No.
spin?
No.
I was going to say,
discuss this one point though, if I could,
Yeah, go ahead, say
for a
so.
moment. The arguments out in the wild right now. The one that I think annoys me the most, obviously, is the inference that they make, and I want to see what kind of actual fallacy this is, but the inference that they make about star rotation. So it's not an affirming the consequence, right? If they just say, I see the stars move from east to west, whatever. When does it become a fallacy after that?
No, that is a fallacy. It's straight up
I mean,
begging
the
the question. That's begging the question.
Right, begging the question, right? So I guess I would ask a more technical question about fallacies, because you guys have mentioned once before that they can use a tactic where they're not actually affirming the consequent, but it seems like it, because the stars rotate, right? The Earth is rotating or is moving. It's not the stars. Something to that effect. But
Yeah,
if
that
it's
is
just straight begging the question,
to just say
then
it, to just assume the outcome. Earth's a ball because we see the stars moving. Right, that's a straight begging the
right,
question fallacy. What you're
okay,
describing is an affirming the consequent. They only state half of it. So typically, if they're competent in fallacy use, they'll establish the begging the question fallacy as a premise in the discussion and then affirm the consequent. So they don't have to state the if P then Q bit. They can just affirm the consequent. Well, because we see the
right,
stars turning in the southern hemisphere, Earth's obviously a sphere. They don't even have to say Earth's obviously a sphere if they've already established it in the principle of the discussion that you're having. They can just say, well, because we see the stars rotating. And you're like, well, what fallacy is that? It's just begging the question, right? No, because the way the discussion has moved into that, they've already established there begging the question that Earth is a sphere, and that as a consequence, if that's the case, we're going to see the star rotation. But because we do, which is the bit that you actually get stated to you, see that star rotation, they don't then even have to make the conclusion Earth's a sphere. They can just go silent. But it is still an affirming the
right.
consequent, is my point. Just not saying it in its full form when the form has been established through discussion is still an affirming the consequent, as much as it may not seem that because they haven't formally stated it in its full if P then Q, Q therefore P statement in one go.
Yep,
Breaking it up doesn't change the
yep,
fallacy, is my point.
right. And I find them doing this pretty much with everything. And you've said this before, that everything is based upon a begging the question fallacy, essentially, because if they use the word tangent point, right, because they're going to say, well, we can measure elevation angles from a tangent plane. They've already begged the question that they're on a sphere or a circle, and they've created a tangent plane. So it seems to happen pretty much everywhere in every argument. They're
Yeah,
always going to beg the question.
exactly. So if you're going to suggest that you're measuring from a flat plane, I still assume that that flat plane will meet out in space at the 90-degree angle on the ground that isn't there anymore, and Earth is dangling
Yeah,
below as a dingleberry. I will assume this. It's like, well, number one, it doesn't work, but that still allows them to have a principle that measures Earth flat on what they're calling a tangent with a begging the question dingleberry dangling below it. Yeah, they're methodology for self-delusion is begging the question. But they've been brainwashed, we all were, into an automatic understanding or belief that it is an understanding that Earth is spherical. Therefore, it doesn't seem wrong to automatically assume that that is the case in your example. It just means that you have to come along and say, no, you are actually begging the question. And when you get a response, how can it be begging the question when I already know it's a sphere? You know, you will get that.
Absolutely. All right, thank you.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
You asked that
Without
already,
the
but I'll answer it
container,
again.
no
No.
pressure.
Did I ask that already? Oh, fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
I said,
Yep.
are you saying that if there was a space, gas
Yeah, I
would
did. You're
fill
right. Okay. Well, I did ask another one, but it didn't get a full answer. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
it? Are you serious? First of all, which one we talking about?
The one that holds gas pressure to a ball, as we've just covered it. That's why I wanted to go in that order.
So a container type of gravity.
Well, they don't describe it as a container, although the fundy anti-flat earthers might badly phrase it that way. That is to say, gravity's the container. No, gravity's not even a force, but you use gravity to explain why you've got a second law of thermodynamics violation in your model of a sphere Earth taken from flat Earth measurements. That's what they might say as an anti-flat earther. Other language that uses begging the question mentality is things like orbits. If you ever hear the word orbit used, you should instinctually know that that incorporates the premise of a sphere Earth in motion based on flat Earth measurements of angles to stars that have been turned into spherical motion. So as soon as someone says, well, how can this work with orbits? Or when something in the sky is performing an orbit, you're like, well, you're describing an angular motion measured off a flat plane turned into a spherical motion called an orbit, automatically assuming the premise that you're trying to prove when you're a globe believer. But spotting those sorts of begging the question fallacies isn't, it stops being subtle when you know the trick, when you know the trigger word that's incorporating globe faith into any claim that's being made. Does that make sense?
Well, I would hate to beg
Yes.
the question with you that gravity is as it's described or what they're thinking of, even in that situation.
Comes back
They would have
to
to
Neil's.
define their terms, right?
Exactly. It comes back to what Neil says. Well, which gravity?
Yeah.
Exactly. Someone in the chat was saying, did you get that from C++ or whatever he's called? Yeah, I did. That's where I got the point from. So I don't know if you can see in the chat. But it's impossible for Earth, the Sun, and the Moon to float in a fixed, flat orbit. They must be spherical. Like, right, so you're just begging the question of an orbital motion. You assume that they're rocks floating around and can't square the circle of that working in a flat plane. It's like, no, the measurements of a spherical orbit were taken from a flat plane to better describe them. But it doesn't make the world a spherical world. It just means you're capable of begging the question that Earth's a spherical world by reification because you think that you've got an actual orbit. Well, no, you don't. The stars do what they do when you look at them. And former members of the church have turned that into spherical motion. That doesn't mean it is. It just means that's how they've described it. You've reified it into your world. And then you say,
you
"But it
say
couldn't
rocks
work on
in
a flat Earth."
space, but
Sorry, Neil,
doesn't
go
the
on.
moon look like a rock?
Yeah, a little bit. Other than rocks don't float around in the sky, Neil.
And they don't glow. Usually rocks don't glow.
No. There's a lot of things the moon does that rocks don't. You can say, yeah, but it's got this comparison to a rock, and you're like, yeah, it does, doesn't it? So what? Correlation isn't causation.
Ro-
Hold
rocks
on a
also don't dis-
second. I got rocks that glow
Oh yeah, what rock's
when
that?
they assume enough when they absorb enough sunlight, they will glow. So maybe the moon is absorbing all the sunlight, and that's what's causing it to glow.
You're saying you've got solar luminescent rocks? What rocks are these?
You could buy like a toy rock that it glows in the dark, right? You put
No,
it
this-
in the light, for a while and then it glows
There's certain
later on when
polymers
it's
that do
dark.
that. I don't know about rocks. What about rocks doing that?
Neil, do you know of any rocks that disappear for 3 days out of the month?
No, I don't. If it does disappear,
I was
we just
thinking,
can't see it.
It's there, but we just can't see it. Well, then it's not there.
have you ever heard them say, like, the Earth must be a sphere because the shadow cast on the moon? It would be if it was a flat Earth, it looked like a minus sign.
Yeah, I've got that. As,
And they try to put,
I've got that as one of the slides that goes by in the Hangout. Yes, go ahead.
right. Well, the reason they say that is because they take their measurements from the same flat plane that we are talking about. And then they try to put it in a geometric position. And they say, well, it can't be flat, even though we just measured it that way, because if we put it in this geometric position, it would look like a minus sign. And then they try to ascribe to the flat earthers that they're the ones actually claiming that. It's
In
insane.
reality, it's projection, because that's actually a fail of the globe motion, is what you're saying, right? It's like it can't work this way because we measure it flat, and if we actually had the orbital motion described in heliocentrism, we would have a minus sign. Yeah, you would in your orbit.
Says who?
Yeah, that's exactly what they did with the solar system just a minute ago. Yeah.
Well, look, have you guys ever seen what a straight object shadow cast on a sphere looks like versus what a sphere's shadow cast on another sphere looks like?
Probably. Why?
Well, because it's not the way they describe it. When you try to cast a sphere shadow on another sphere, it gives you an S curve. And when you cast a straight object on a sphere, it gives you a curved shadow. So their entire idea of what the shadow should look like is just wrong on its face, easily demonstrated.
Yeah, the assumption that it's a shadow at all is wrong in many ways. I haven't seen many shadows turn
True.
red or go in the opposite direction of the thing claiming to be occulting them and producing the shadow. None of it makes any sense. Hello, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Afternoon.
Got a few more housekeeping questions, and we might get to Brian, hopefully, if there's still time.
But that's actually a good point to talk about those. So many people will phrase it like this. Well, first they'll jump the gun that it's the shadow of the Earth, right? That's the first assumption, right? Which you could just nip that at the bud. But they'll then say, well, the shadow, quote unquote, of the Earth is round on the surface of the moon, right? Therefore, the object in question must also be round. Now, that logic would follow if all the conditionals are proven and all the premises are proven. But then you have to ask, well, can a straight object make a curved shadow on a curved surface? And the answer is yes. So their premise isn't even true.
Yeah, but in this instance, though, AI, we're saying what they're doing is they're taking a penny and putting it into an orbit to create the occultation. And they're saying the side edge of the penny is what would create it based on the orbital motion applied to a flat plane that's a penny, like a pancake. That's as a rebuttal to us, saying how their claim of presupposed orbital motion taken from measurements of a flat plane wouldn't work on a flat plane, because the orbital motion they infer to better describe the motion of the stars doesn't work when you reify it into a penny with an orbital motion of the other stars around it in a non-favored position, sun-centric.
Yeah. Yeah, they're assuming the thickness of the Earth. They're also assuming the attitude of the Earth, because if the Earth was a penny but turned at an angle, it would be sufficient to cast a circular shadow onto the moon. But the point I'm making is that it doesn't matter whether the object is round or not. Okay, and the sphere itself is what causes the curved shadow. A straight object will cast a curved shadow onto a sphere because the surface of the sphere is curved. That seems to be a thing that they don't grasp when they're talking about this point.
Right, as a response to them, though, as opposed to any inference that you'd know that it is even a shadow. But you did disclaim that early on. Moving on.
Yeah, all these impressions
Go on.
are taken from an imagined viewpoint of you within the cosmos, right? So you go into your mind space and then you retract yourself out of your own head, float out into somewhere far away from Earth, and then you can see all these objects and their relationship to each other. Right?
Yeah.
That's what you see in your mind. But no one's ever had that vantage point to be able to tell you that that's where those objects are relative to each other. No astronaut has ever been anywhere to be able to see that. No quote unquote satellite has ever been even alleged anywhere to be able to see that.
Well, you can't.
We've never been given any of that.
Well, you can't, because you have to take this. You kind of hinted at it. You have to take the step of reification first. So you go from measurements of Earth and the motion of the stars to flat plane radial value extrapolation, turned into spherical, turned into orbital motion, taken away from being central positional wise, moved to sun centric. Then the step of you being devoid of the position you made the first measurements from on the ground, which is no longer the central position because it's sun-centric. And then you're describing, once you've taken those steps of reification into that modelling process to better understand where the stars might appear in the night sky, to saying, no, I am actually in that motion described in these maths. It's like, you've got to take some big steps. Now, I appreciate that is actually how the Western world do view the solar system, like it is a potential place to go, to be able to have that vantage. And you're saying, if it was a potential place to go, nobody's had that vantage point to see back at this stepping out of the reification in the first instance. You're not even on the ground that it was measured from flat in the first place. You're stepping away into the space that the stars are moving around. It's like, no, they're only ever relevant from the place they were viewed from, the ground that they were measured from. So stepping out of that, not just into a space motion where you're moving around the sun on the ground that you're measuring, you're actually stepping away from that ground and looking back at it. It's like, man, these are some pretty conceptually crazy stuff that most normies can actually deal with because they're told it is so. But to comprehend the fact that it is reification and a visualization of something that is not real, explaining that to your average normie is actually far more complicated than them just going through the complicated steps of stepping back out into a solar system. Then again, I don't know why I'm saying it's difficult for a normie to do. They presented it with visual aids. Here's you from Alpha Centauri looking back at Earth. Oh, wow, yeah, so I am. I'm right there, man.
Right. So if you could see it from that position, then gas could fill all the way out to that position, could it not?
Yeah, but seeing is believing,
Yeah.
and just seeing it like this. This is behind the word space debunked, just the moonrise. Very devoid of what is behind flat Earth debate now, with Simon Dan dangling out an aeroplane without Earth turning underneath it, or helicopter. The two views are very, very different because one is real and one is not. That's something else I saw, Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, and there's a different version of him saying, it looks real because it's so fake, or it's not fake because it looks so fake, or something like that. Well, he did the similar but not the same rendition with Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan's looking at the Starman footage with Don't Panic on the dashboard of the Tesla in space. He's like, so is this one real? He's like, oh, yeah, that one's real. And is this one real? It's like, why are you even questioning whether or not it's real? You already know it's not because you wouldn't be asking. This is to Joe. But you've got to ask whether or not it's real, and you just trust Elon when he says it is. Oh, yeah, that's definitely real. What about the GoPro? Oh, yeah, that's fine. Just on a stick on the side of the car. Yeah, it's fine. Like, why are you even asking? It's obviously not real. And one of his disclaimers is, it's not fake because it looks so fake. Or it's real because it looks so fake.
Before you move away from the moon, Nathan, could you talk about the cold light of the moon? Because in my mind, light can never be cold, but I could be wrong. But I saw on Taboo Conspiracy's latest video, Mark Sargent. I don't really watch Mark Sargent, so to me, It's like he just emerged. I've not seen him for several years, and he was talking about the cold light of the moon. And I was like, oh, and he's like, the mainstream don't want to touch that. So I
Yeah,
wondered
fair
what
enough.
you.
Before we go on this idea that light can only make things hot is just straight up false. So I'll give you a question and I'll answer it myself. What is the way that we as humans get things the coldest possible? So obviously we have a refrigerator. That's one way we get things cold. We could do liquid nitrogen, pour it on something, that'll get things cold. But the actual mechanism that we use to make things the coldest that we can ever make them is lasers, light. We use light to make things cold.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now you know.
That's interesting.
So
How
Now,
so?
the tangent I
tell
take,
you.
just to answer your question,
Go
sorry
ahead,
to
friend.
interrupt you, AI. Just to answer you, so where would I take that as opposed to answering you? You've already had the reason why you wouldn't answer that question from AI. Thank you, AI. Is to take it to the specular reflections that are claimed and impossible in the heliocentric model. They're claiming it's a reflection of the light of the sun. That's not possible. You wouldn't get an even distribution of the light from the moon in the way that we do if the light was, as they claimed, to be reflected off it. So the way you would take, if you want to look it up in terms of how that actually functions, just look up or type in specular reflections. And instantaneously you'll know why their claim of how the moon reflects the light from the sun can't work. Now, in terms of the moon's production of its own light, to me, feel free to disagree, that is self-evident. Cold or otherwise. Plenty of examples. I don't know if Adam's going to pipe up because he's certainly investigated it more than I have. At a cursory glance, it seemed we discussed it a couple of weeks ago. During the eclipse, as far as my own personal experience, it got very cold at totality. That's, what is that? Anecdotal at best. Other people have put thermometers on stuff and in some form or another tried to control the environment so they can give a more conclusive result. And time again, they show that the moon seems to produce a cold light. Again, not conducive with heliocentric descriptions of reflections of sunlight. Nevertheless, it's an interesting folly. I mean, I don't see it as anything else other than an interesting folly, because we don't know what it is, in the same way we don't know what the sun or the sky is. So it's one of those delightful subjects where we might be the ones to find out what it actually is, or better understand it, or hopefully find some more practical uses for it. Instead, we live in a world where what seems to be a very good way of tracking time has been taken away from us. You know, we've got 12 calendar months rather than 13 calendar moon cycles, moods, if you will. Why? Well, why not? That's the question you should be asking. Why have we had that taken from us? When it does have a use, we're not using it. Why not? I don't know the answer to that. It's rhetorical. Go on, sorry.
The calendar aspect of it is really interesting as well, just from the sun worshippers angle. Yeah, I like that.
Well, the religion is a sun worshipping religion by just in the very title. So if you're a heliocentrist, you are a sun-centric religion. That's what that is in the title. Heliocentric. Nobody realizes that they're in a religion. Religions are very useful for keeping people under control. And throughout time, there's always been prevalent religions. Now, obviously, the current Western world doesn't have a acute awareness that they're in a religion, but they are. And it serves the same purpose as any other religion throughout history. Just now they're in a heliocentric sun-worshipping religion and they don't even know it. Based on belief, too. And even, we were talking about this in the pre-show, a lot of the language we used is focused around people's beliefs. When you're asked why you're a flat earther, why would you believe that? That's not what I believe. Who cares what you believe? We're doing slightly better than yesterday on viewing for figures. So we're up to 83 people watching. Woohoo! Edging our way back up to 100 after lots of interruptions. Finally back on the rails.
Should be thousands.
Well, if we can get back over 100, I'll be happy that we're going in the right direction after a slight hiatus through electrical and computer issues. So I'm pleased. Thank you for sharing the show. If you've done so already, please smash the share button if you haven't. We'll go a little bit longer. We've got a little bit more of a live show, yes. Right. Did we cover all the housekeeping? Any evidence of self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Yes.
Again?
Since you parsed it with presupposed, then the only evidence necessary is the presupposition itself. Since I can go to a textbook and find that people do claim there's a molten iron core, then that is an evidence of the presupposition. I rest my case.
Yeah, good job. Yes, you can demonstrate the evidence of the presupposition by opening a textbook and showing that people do suppose there is a molten iron core at the centre of Earth with a radius value measured off a flat plane. That does demonstrate the answer to the question, smarty pants. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a spherical Earth? What you gonna do now, AI? Huh? Move on is what I'm gonna do. Right, I think we've covered all the housekeeping questions. If we've not, that's fine, because we will do about a couple a day from now on. We won't.
Hold on. We got to set the record straight. Anytime you think I'm wrong, it's just a Mandela effect.
Think about it.
Like
You
the
remember
rule-
that time you thought you were wrong, but you were mistaken?
It's like there's two rules that you need to adhere to. Rule number 1, I am always right. Rule number 2, if I am wrong, refer to rule 1. Not that I adhere to those principles, but I don't know if I like the Mandela effect. Whenever I hear my eldest daughter, who's 7, listening to garbage on YouTube, it comes up more frequently than I can mention. People talk about Mandela effect in mainstream all the time.
Really, I don't actually watch much mainstream stuff, so I'm surprised to hear that. They're saying it to kids?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I have my daughter listening to whatever crap she gets pushed towards her on YouTube. I don't know. Typically, the case your average 7-year-old's probably got what YouTube would categorize as an older, maybe 10 or 11-year-old's mentality. But whatever they categorize it as, the stuff that she gets exposed to, they're talking about Mandela effect, and I overhear it a lot.
It's a really good way to use manipulation, isn't it? That's the way I see it, anyway. This is how you may have remembered it. Either way, it keeps you off balance, so it's good for many things. But I think it's very important for us, well, for me, to point out that it's nonsense.
I watched Paula, Bible U, who's in the chat now, talking about this and breaking it down over the last couple of months, much to her frustration. And throughout that process, it got more and more concise in terms of the best ways to break it down. And one of the best statements she gave in this regard was to say that the supposition of Mandela effect includes the premise that Mandela effect itself is affecting everything except your memory.
Well, how do we know that the Mandela effect is not just a Mandela effect itself?
If it affected your memory, we would never know. But that's the fundamental flaw, isn't it, in the logic of Mandela effect? It's like, number one, any bonehead knows that everyone's fallible in that regard. Your memory's not perfect. So to suppose that the world around you and timelines and dimensions are changing, therefore changing the titles of books and children's TV shows and things like that, is to suggest that your memory is perfect, but the alteration in the world
isn't. That any appeal? Think about it. If my memory is consistent, then I'm one of the special ones, right?
That makes you very special, perfect memory man.
Exactly. So it serves the whole purpose of that type of thinking, right? To make you unique, special, and different. So why would being told that dissuade those types of people? Now, a perfectly rational person might say, you know what, that's a good point. But someone who's swayed by that type of stuff is going to be like, oh, that's a great point. I'm even more special than I thought I was.
Yeah. Kind of how Flat Earth was pitched when I first got here, actually. And I remember Validation Boy suggesting it quite overtly, which is to say, look, you've acquired this special knowledge. Just don't tell anybody. Just know it and not care. Go about your day. You don't have to be that person that goes around telling everyone so that you feel special about the fact you know something someone else doesn't. You know, now you know. Good for you.
That's not why you tell people.
I'm not suggesting I agree. I'm just telling you what back in the day Validation Boy said. Shout out to Flat Earth, Vlad on 0 degrees rather. Thanks to everyone on Flat Earth server for hosting today's show. Yeah, indeed, that should be my job. You're paying me, and I'm the one who should be saying that. Thank you to 24/7 for having us. We will round out shortly on the live stream, but stay tuned if you are watching on an after show. Go ahead, Neil. Thank you for the super chat.
No, I was just saying that's not why you tell people. Now that you explained it, it makes no sense in me saying this. But it's not to make you feel special. It's that you're trying to open the eyes of people that have been sitting in darkness their entire lives. And that's exactly what heliocentrism is. It's sitting in darkness.
That's great, Neil. But the problem is that represents 10% or less of the people that will be involved in this group like this. The majority of people who will be involved with Flat Earth are in it for the reasons we previously described. And we've all witnessed that with our own eyes.
What are they?
So I don't think I'm wrong
I agree.
in saying that.
I agree.
What reasons previously described? Can you describe what those reasons?
Like self-importance, feeling unique, feeling like you have special knowledge, feeling like you have something that you can lord over somebody else. All those types of things, which, usually happens in all these types of groups.
Yep.
Hey, you can attain that that special knowledge behind the paywall on some channels.
Hey, let's not get snippy. What the point is that it gets you feeling like you're a very special snowflake amongst normies. Just that term itself, normies, distinguishes you as the very special snowflake, doesn't it? You mere normies don't know the nature of Earth. We, here on our pedestal of mocked and ridiculed flat earthers, do know, because we are special.
Hey, listen, it's not even globe Earth flat Earth. It's flat Earth, not flat Earth, right? Think about it that way. We've seen it in our own community that it's not special to be special. You have to be extra special, and then you have to treat the normal special people with your extra special disdain. Be like, aha, I'm even more special than you because I think it's not flat and you think it's flat.
I can go out of my way to show how not flat Earth is. With that, though, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Primary Streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit me up on the Ko-Fi link below, and all that good stuff. Of course, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels, 24/7 Discord server, I should say, for making today's live show possible. Hopefully one of the mods will put a link to Flat Earth 24/7 Discord server so you can join if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Woo! 100 people watching, just under 97. Almost hit 100. Please share the show on Facebook and Twitter if you've not done so already.